Good morning. Welcome to the very first Power Her Potential event. Yay!
Woo!
I feel very honored to be here. My name is Mona Lipson, and I am the Director of Strategic Advancement and Corporate Citizenship for Voss Foundation. We are affiliated with Voss Water. Voss Water founded the foundation about 10 years ago when the CEO went on a family safari and really noticed quite quickly the urgent and dire need for safe water and thought, I run a water company, we should do something. So they started Voss Foundation. We are an independent nonprofit organization. So although Voss remains our largest donor, we are not fully funded and we have to fundraise in order to fulfill the programs that we have committed to in sub-Saharan Africa. We're always being asked by our supporters, by people at Voss, by some of our program partners that they want to come to sub-Saharan Africa with us and see the wells and the boreholes and the sanitation facilities that we are funding. And although we would love to bring everyone with us, it's not that simple. And so we came up with a solution to bring sub-Saharan Africa to you. So recently we traveled to Swaziland and we filmed a 360 virtual reality film about a young woman named Petsile who gains access to safe water for the very first time. We met her very organically. We were filming the water system that was being built in her homestead, and she was really interested in the cameras and what was going on and said to us, do you want to come and see where I get my water from? So we walked with her about 700, maybe 800 feet away to what she called a river, and quite frankly to me it just looked like a puddle that was being shared with cows and goats and chickens. They had tried to construct a fence around it, but with limited supplies, it really wasn't doing much. And we sort of did a double take and said, this is where you got your water from this morning? Yes. This is where you got your water from yesterday? Yes. So we asked her if we could film her and learn a little bit more about her story. And she knew exactly that by telling her story, we would bring awareness to this issue that is affecting over 800 million people still today. 3 times the size in the United States still don't have access to basic drinking water. So we spent the next week with Petsile and her family, and over the course of 5 days, she went from drinking from a puddle to having safe water about a 5-minute walk from her home. So I invite all of you at some point today. I will be outside and I have the virtual reality if you'd like to learn a little bit more about Petsile. If you don't have time to stop, we have some cardboard viewers that you're welcome to take home with you. Learn a little bit more about the water crisis that's still affecting so many people, about Voss Foundation and our efforts to just be, a part of that solution. And, grab a bottle of Voss water also if you're thirsty and it's hot outside. So with that, I am really excited to introduce you to my new friend, Kara. Kara Perez is the CEO and founder of Bravely, and she is here to tell you financial lessons that she learned from hip hop.
Yeah.
So, welcome.
Thank you for that intro and for telling us about Voss. Thank y'all for being here today. I know it's a little bit early for Saturday morning. I sleep late. It's totally fine. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself to start this off. That's me, looking so giggly in front of a blue wall. I love it. So I have a company called Bravely, and we do financial literacy events as well as online content. We are a community of people who are ready to take control of their money and feel like a boss, basically. And I have a degree in English. I am not in any way licensed as a financial professional, but in the last 4 years, I've really transformed my financial life, and some of that has been through the University of Google, which is great. But what I think is amazing is that money is really accessible, and money is really something you can use to change your life and live your best life once you know how to do that. It can feel very overwhelming. It can feel very intimidating, especially I think for women, it can feel like money is something for white dudes in suits, and I'm not that, so I can't do this. But you absolutely can. And money is everywhere. So we do events, like I said, and you can find us in all these fabulous places on the internet if you want to learn a little bit more about us and about my particular journey. But what's great is that money is all around us, right? Like I said, frequently we'd hear money on the radio, particularly hip hop lyrics. Is anyone here like a really big fan of hip hop? Yes, me, I totally am. I taught a class on it in college, on the history of hip hop, and I'm just very into it. And even though sometimes it's hard to listen to hip hop as a lady, there's a lot of really great financial lessons in there. So the first question that I have for y'all today is, where do I start with money? So many people feel very overwhelmed, like I said, and they feel like, I don't even really know where to begin. Like, what is a budget? How much should I be saving? How do I even start saving? So, okay, just making sure. I thought I double-clicked there. And that's a very common problem. Americans are not great with money historically and currently. A 2015 survey by the American Psychological Association found that money is the leading cause of stress for Americans. 64% of Americans say money is a somewhat or very significant source of stress. And in 2015, there was an article that went viral from The Atlantic that reported that the average American couldn't come up with $400 in cash by the end of a week if they faced an emergency without having to sell something or borrow money from a friend. So they just didn't have $400 sitting around in a savings account. So money's tough for a lot of us out here. Luckily,
now I make money moves.
We have Cardi B, who is here, current queen of hip hop, and she is making money moves. Cardi B, if you want like a lesson in the meritocracy of the United States, Cardi B's career has been insane, right? I mean, she just kind of burst onto the scene and she has had an incredible career thus far. She's about to be a mom. Very excited for Cardi. So here are 4 money moves that everyone can make. It's very simple when you break it down into its core things. Set up a budget, follow that budget. Always save something each month. It really, truly does not matter how much you save as long as you're saving. It's about establishing the habit. Avoid debt and invest regularly. There's a saying for investing, invest early and often, and make that your mantra, and I promise that it will treat you right. So, budgeting. Does anyone here currently budget? Yeah, okay, a few people. I like it. I love budgeting. I'm all about that. I have 4 different spreadsheets that I use, as well as the Mint app, which I check like 17 times a day because I'm crazy into money. But budgeting gets a bad rap. A lot of people think that if I'm budgeting, I must be denying myself. Like, budgeting is deprivation, right? I have to say no to one thing so I can say yes to another, which is sometimes true. If you're saving for an amazing trip to Hawaii, maybe you are going to skip a few meals out so that you can put that money towards that. But that's building towards something that you value as well, right? Travel, Hawaii, time with friends and family. And the truth of the matter is that budgeting is just paying attention and organizing your money. So it gets you to a place where you can do amazing things with your money. But first you kind of got to do the homework of putting it all together. Excuse me. Most people's 3 biggest budget areas are housing, transportation, and food. And if you have a child, childcare can get very expensive very quickly. So budgeting helps us track our numbers and understand, oh damn, I spent $300 on Uber rides last month. That's a want, not a need. How can I transfer some of that money into my savings or into my debt payments, whatever it is? So this is a very basic budget, but you basically write down how much everything costs you, total it all up, and ideally your living expenses month to month are significantly less than what you're earning so that you can put money towards savings and investment. So make Cardi proud, set up a budget. Like I said, you can use a spreadsheet or an app. I happen to use both. It really doesn't matter how you're doing it. You can literally track it on pen and paper, but find a way so that you can see your numbers monthly. And then this is the hardest part about budgeting, is you have to do that consistently. Set a money date. I literally have on my phone app at the 30th of every month, I sit down and it's like, money date. It like pops up and I go over my budget and I think about, what am I trying to do next month? What worked for me this month? What do I want to achieve in the future? Save something. So setting up automatic transfers or start to save your change are some really easy ways to get started, especially if you already get paid by like direct deposit and the money is already in your account. You can say, okay, I want $50 to go towards my savings account before I get to spend any of this. Or if you're like, my first job out of college was waiting tables. It's a cash business. So I always saved my $1 bills. I was like, oh, I can spend like 5s and 10s and 20s, but 1s I'm gonna stick in this jar, and every 2 weeks I'm gonna go to the bank. And I actually saved $8,000 in 11 months doing that. So $1 bills, man. Avoid debt. Listen, debt can be very unavoidable. I've had debt. I've had credit card debt. I have had student loan debt. Medical debt is a huge issue facing Americans. But as much as possible, avoid it. And like I have here, be clear on what and why you're borrowing money. So if you know, I want to go to grad school, that's going to cost me 60 grand. Be very clear on, I want to take out $30 in student loans at the lowest interest rate I can find for grad school tuition, not for living expenses. I'm going to find a job to cover that. So as long as you're going into debt or mortgages, right, that's another very common debt, knowing here's what I'm using it for, here's how I plan on paying it off, you will be better off. And then the last thing, invest regularly. Investing is everyone's path to wealth. It really is. So invest early and often and make your money work for you. We're going to get a little more into investing later. So, how do I earn more money? How many people here feel like they're already earning enough money? Like, you don't need any more money. Really? Wow, you're the first one who's ever answered that question like that. I love it. Good for you. I definitely feel like I could use some more money. Like if someone walked into this room right now and was like, here's 10 grand, I'd be like, deuces, I got this. Like I definitely want it.
Little bit, oh Lord, know yourself, know your worth.
So Drake is my next money, I want to say queen. I'm going to say money queen. Drake's my next money queen. Know yourself, know your worth. I have this printed out on, I keep it in a frame on my desk. Know yourself, know your worth. I own my own business and I work as a freelance writer. So I am constantly negotiating my worth with people and I'm constantly exerting the value that I can bring to people. So knowing what I'm worth is a huge part of how I live my life, how I earn my money. And even if you don't own your own business, if you're a W-2 employee and you work for Whole Foods, let's say, you absolutely need to know your worth. And there are two main ways earning more comes down to two main tactics: get paid more or work more. Now, most people seem to think they want to get paid more, which is great. And you definitely should. When you're negotiating, make sure you know the market rate for your work. So spend the time, do the research and understand, okay, I'm a marketing director in Austin, Texas. What are other marketing directors making in this area? What are marketing directors making in New York? What am I doing? What have I brought to the company in the last year that I feel merits more money? So have what I like to call a brag sheet. So again, I work for myself, but I have a little Post-it that's on the wall right next to my desk of all the things that I'm proud of myself for doing. And so that way when I'm having down days or when I'm negotiating with a client and they're like, you're not really worth this, I look over at my brag sheet and I'm like, look at all the badass things I've done. I'm totally worth this and I can do that for you. So have a little brag sheet, #humblebrag. And know exactly where you want to go. If you're at $50,000 and you're asking for a $30,000 raise, don't go in and be like, well, I guess I want an extra $10,000. Like, no, you're asking for a $30,000 raise. Here's why I deserve it. Here's how I'm going to get it. So negotiating really comes down to research. If you want to work more, I really advocate for the side hustle. And side hustles can be literally anything. Maybe you want to pick up just a bartending shift 2 nights a week so you have a little bit more money to throw towards your student loans. Or maybe you are happy at your job, but you've always wanted to be a farmer. This is if you've secretly been wanting to grow tomatoes and sell them at the farmer's market, it's time to start a garden. Invest in something that you are passionate about, and also invest in something that will help you in your current job if you are working for someone else. So for example, if you are that marketing director and you're really looking to become the CEO, you can start investing in classes at UT on community management, right? How do I deal with people better? How do I work with people better? And that can A, generate you more income, and B, tie back into your negotiating skills. So make Drake proud. This is one of my favorite gifts in my whole presentation. I'm a peacocky guy, let me fly. Most people feel like they're overspending, but they also feel like they can't possibly cut anything out. They're like, I'm looking at my budget, I know I need to cut back, but like I really needed all those Uber rides, right? Like I was getting to and from downtown and driving's a mess and I don't want to pay for parking, so I'm really saving money. But the numbers don't lie. Another fabulous Jay-Z quote, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. That's another hip hop thing for you there. So, speaking of
financial freedom, my only hope. Fuck living rich and dying broke.
So first of all, if you're looking for financial lessons in hip hop, Jay-Z's your boy. I feel like every other song he's talking about money. And honestly, this song in particular, The Story of OJ, is chock full of financial lessons, and it's great. And it won a couple of awards for Best Music Video, so spend some time getting to know Jay-Z. So we often feel that right now is our priority, right? We want to be happy in the present, and that is awesome, and I definitely think that we should be happy day to day, and we should be enjoying our lives. We can't always be someday, 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 right? We have to enjoy the now. However, the thing that a lot of people forget is that 10 years from now, you're still going to be you. And you're still going to want things like a roof over your head and delicious food and healthcare. So you have to start saving and prepping for that. So, like I say up here, no one ever looked at a bunch of money in their bank accounts and wished they had less, right? No one's like, I'm good. Well, I mean, maybe you. Maybe you're looking at your accounts feeling like I'm all set. So saving and investing in your future is investing in yourself in the best way, especially if you have kids or you know, oh, I'm going to be responsible for my parents as they age, or I want to buy a house in Hawaii, and that's not cheap. So, Americans and saving. So, unfortunately, tying back to the point I made a little earlier, Americans are really bad at saving, and we always have been. Currently, the U.S. savings rate is 2.4%. It's been holding steady since last December. It's at the lowest point it's been in 12 years. 1/5 of Americans aren't saving anything, despite unemployment being at a post-recession low. So more people have more jobs than ever before, and we are still not saving very much. And why aren't we saving? Well, most people say their income isn't high enough and their costs of living are too damn high. You remember that guy running for office in New York? The rent is too damn high. He had like that crazy mustache. This was a while ago. I may be dating myself. This was like 2012. But his whole platform, he was like, I'm so-and-so and I am from the party, the rent is too damn high. Like, that was the name of his party, because cost of living expenses in New York are truly insane. I'm sure you've read stories about San Francisco and Seattle, and it's really rising across the country. Here in Austin, we've seen cost of living expenses skyrocket in the last 10 years. It's crazy. So when you have high cost of living and stagnant wages, which over the last 40 years, wages in the United States have stagnated, meaning cost of living is going up and wages are just staying the same. So we have less money and we have more bills. And so it's hard to save. But, like Jay-Z said, fuck living rich and dying broke. We're out here to save, right? So, an IRA, does anyone here currently have an IRA? Yes, 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 I love it. I love the IRA. I personally have two. Well, you can only put $5,500 a year in an IRA, even if you have more than one. So max $5,500 a year. But anyone can open an IRA. So if you are not offered retirement savings via your workplace is just like, we don't have a 401k to offer you. We don't have a 403b to offer you. You can go home today and open an IRA through a brokerage firm. And you want to do that ASAP. I started saving for retirement at 26, which is earlier than most Americans. And in that time, I'm 30 now, I turned 30 in April, my investments have grown by nearly 200%. So start saving now. And honestly, that's kind of why I look at Mint so much, because Mint tells you your net worth and it like categorizes all my investments. And I'm like, look at me go, I'm doing it. I'm out here working for myself. And it's nice, and it encourages me to do more because I see what I've already been able to do. And a lot of that growth in my investments and in y'all's investments comes from compound interest. Does anyone know what compound interest is? Or have you heard that phrase? Are you familiar with it? So compound interest, Benjamin Franklin, referred to as the eighth wonder of the world. It's interest that grows on interest. So when you put your money into your investments, you start earning interest right away, right? And then when you put more money in, you're going to start earning money off of not only that initial investment that you put in, but how much it's grown since you've put the second addition in. Does that make sense? So, and then that starts earning interest, and then you add more money, and that's why I say investing is everyone's path to wealth, because investing really does get your money working for you. Now, I always get a lot of questions about, well, what if there's a recession? What if the market crashes? And yes, we actually are in this crazy bull market right now. The market has been going up steadily for about 9 years, and that is bonkers. Like, that does not normally happen. Normally, we have a recession every 4 years. Now, again, when I say recession, most people think 2008, housing crisis, everyone's broke, people are homeless. That was particularly bad. We've only had recessions on that level 3 times in the United States. Most recessions, it's just a recession by definition is just declining market returns over 2 quarters. So we could have a recession for 6 months, and then that's it. It's not always going to be like 2008. So investing is a really good idea for everyone. And I'm happy to answer questions about investing after this. I'm not an accountant, but I know what I'm talking about. So start investing now. So this is a fabulous graph. We've got Susan, Bill, and Chris. So Susan invests $5,000 each year between 25 and 35, and then she stops contributing. She's like, I don't need to do this anymore. Bill invests $5,000 a year between 35 and 65, so he's doing it for 30 years. Chris, $5,000 each year between 25 and 65, so 40 years. Look at our numbers here. Chris, 40 years, right? He's got over $1 million. He's killing it. Chris is set for life. Susan actually comes in second place, even though she only invested for 10 years. She has more money than Bill because she got in 10 years before Bill. So she had way more time in the market. And they invested the same amount of money. So that's why truly, everyone needs to be investing. It is such a good protection for your future. It's such a good way to get your money working for you. And it really does not necessarily you don't have to put in $1 million to get out $1 million, right? You can put in $50,000 and walk away with over 600 grand. So make Jay-Z proud. Start with saving just 10% of your monthly income if you can. So if you make $500 a month, try saving 50. Everyone should have at least 2 savings accounts. Does anyone here have more than a checking and a savings account? Yes, I love it. Okay, I have 6 savings accounts as well as a checking account, just in my personal side. I also have a business account that I have 4 savings accounts and 2 checking accounts. Why do I do that to myself? Are you thinking, damn, she cray? No, you're thinking she crazy like a fox, because these are just 2 examples, but I save in different savings accounts for different goals. So I have a travel savings fund, I have an emergency fund, I have a random expenses fund because I pay a few bills every 6 months and they always catch me by surprise. Well, no longer, because I have $500 in there all the time. I have a retirement one where I save $1,000 and then once I hit $1,000, I invest it actively through my brokerage. So having separate savings accounts allows you to see where you are on the path towards that particular goal, and it ensures that you don't spend that money on something else. So if you just had one lump sum in your checking account and you're like, damn, I got 10 grand in here, this is awesome, but that's supposed to be your emergency fund and that trip to Hawaii, and you need new tires, you could easily spend that money on rent or dinner out, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm trying to go to Hawaii, what happened to that money? So it's just a good way to stay organized. And these are the 2 basic funds that I recommend everyone have. You want to have fun, you want to go to Hawaii, you want to go to Spain, you want to buy that new dress, I get it, we're all trying to look good. But you also want to protect yourself for emergencies. So an emergency fund, commonly 1 to 3 months living expenses is what people recommend. If you're a freelancer, I recommend a little bit more. I personally keep 8 months living expenses in my emergency fund because my income does fluctuate month to month. Student loans are killing me. Does anyone here have student loans? Yes. Only 2 people, really? Man, you guys are, that's remarkable, quite frankly. This is a great song.
I finished paying, selling, maybe. I finished paying, selling, maybe. I finished paying, selling, maybe.
I really, this whole song, it's called I Finished Paying Sally Mayback, and it's awesome. It starts off with, this is D1, he's a rapper from New Orleans, and he walks out of like the student loan office, and he's like, I'm finished. He like falls down to his knees, he's like weeping with joy. It's really empowering, or not empowering, it's really motivating. You're like, yes! And honestly, the day that I finished paying off my student loans, I graduated college with a little over 25 grand and didn't make over 20 grand until 2015. So it was a long slog of 4 years of under 20 grand. I got super drunk at Shangri-La over on the east side and just like bopped around. It was like, I finished paying off my debt to like everyone in the bar. And it was great. It was actually like a very happy community space. So student loans suck. They suck. They cannot be discharged in bankruptcy, and sometimes they can be collected on even if you die, especially if you have, or exclusively if you have a co-signer. So if your mom is like, yeah, I'm gonna sign a loan for you for 50 grand to send you to Harvard, and you're like, thanks, Mom, and then unfortunately you pass away, RIP, we miss you, your mom can still have to pay that 50 grand. It's crazy, even though technically it's your debt. IBR stands for income-based repayment plans, and they can help, but honestly, they're very uncertain. When Trump got into office, he changed the rules. So the income-based repayment was set into place under Obama. Trump changed it. They could easily change under our hopefully next president. And it's just really uncertain if that will actually be forgiven. So I really, really do think the best way to deal with your debt is to face it head on and to pay it off yourself. Now, Americans in debt. Are you ready for some more fabulous statistics? Most Americans are in debt. Look at these percentages. 81% of baby boomers, 80% of Gen Xers, and 81.5% of millennials. Now again, the types of debt really vary. Most boomers carry mortgage debt. Most millennials carry student loan debt. Everyone carries medical debt because our healthcare system is incredibly broken. But it's actually 1.4 trillion in student loan debt as of 2018. 44.2 million Americans with student loans. And that is not just millennials, that really runs the gamut. We have a lot of 50, 60-year-olds in this country who still have student loans. We had a delinquency rate of 11.2% in 2016. So people are really struggling to pay this back. And the average monthly student loan payment is $351, which is a significant amount of money. My minimum payment when I had student loan debt was $400. My boyfriend still currently has debt, and he pays $1,200 a month on his, which is a little extra. That's not the minimum, but that's an insane amount of money, right? Like, what could you do with $1,200 a month? I couldn't believe it when you told me that. So, loans to know about. So, no one here is currently in college, right? Oh, yes, okay. So this is going to apply to you. So, private loans, so those are things like from Sallie Mae or Navient now. They can have variable interest rates, and that's going to be based on your credit score or your cosigner's credit score. They are not eligible for income-based repayment plans. So no matter what Congress and the president does with income-based plans, private loans does not apply. Federal student loans do apply. So those have a flat interest rate, which is set by Congress, and that is eligible for income-based. There's unsubsidized and direct subsidized. So if you have a subsidized loan, the government is paying the interest on that while you're in school, which is very nice of the government, or while it's in deferment. If you have an unsubsidized loan, as soon as you take that money out, so if you take it out in July and you don't even start college until September, you're paying interest on that in July. So this is why student loans are so friggin' tricky. There's all these ridiculous rules around it, and they get you coming and going. So obviously I get fired up about student loans. If y'all ever want to talk about your debt, let me know. So D1, like I said, is that wrapper. Make D1 proud. Organize your debt, all your debts, not just student loans. List all of them out. So be like, here's my medical debt, here's my credit card debt, here's my student loan debt. And then in that, say, I owe Sallie Mae $10,000. I owe other student loan provider here $5,000 for a total of 15. You know, my medical debt is to the hospital, to the doctor, to the ambulance, whatever, so that you understand where your money is going. I also really, really, really try to emphasize to take note of the interest rates. Different debts have different interest rates. So credit card debt notoriously has the highest interest rate. You can have credit card interest rates of 28, 29, 30%, which is insane. It's so insane. Usually student loans have between 1 and 10%, so significantly lower. Two methods that are very popular and very common to pay off debt is to focus paying off your lowest balance debt first. That's called the Snowball Method. So if you have a $1,000 student loan and a $10,000 credit card, the Snowball Method says make the minimum payment on the credit card even though it has a higher interest, knock out that $1,000, and then snowball the payment and the interest that you were paying from that student loan towards the credit card. So you're hitting it with more. The Avalanche Method is exactly the same thing except the highest interest. So you'd focus on that credit card and then you'd go after the student loan. I actually used both of these when I paid off my student loans because, interestingly enough, the highest interest was on my lowest balance loans. Personally, I'm a fan of the Avalanche Method though, because you will save more money in the long run by paying off those higher interest rates earlier. So there's no bad way to pay off debt. If you've got three different, you've got a credit card, you've got a student loan, you've got a medical debt, and that medical debt just pisses you off, pay that off first. Get that anger out of your life. Live your best life. Welcome harmony into your life. It really doesn't matter. Just tackle it and tackle it consistently. You can be great with money. You can be a bad bitch. Look at that. I normally don't like to use the B word, but I just thought this was like such a ridiculous gift. Oh, it's so good. I had to put it in there. Money fundamentally is something we all can do. There are some ins and outs of money. It can get a little bit tricky, and there's a lot to learn, but I really do promise you that if I can I got C's in high school in math, I have a degree in English. Like, if I can figure it out, you can totally figure it out. And if you work at it consistently, I do promise you, you will grow your wealth. So again, this is where you can find us. You can also shoot me an email if you want. It's Kara, K-A-R-A, @bravelygo.co. I'm always happy to talk to people about money. We do events here in Austin pretty much every other month. I'm actually getting on a flight in like 2 hours, so we won't be here for all of June, but we'll be doing one in August, September, October, and November. So fall's busy, and we are releasing our first online kits for people. We have a freelancer kit and a budgeting kit coming out this month. So that's Bravely. Thank you all for being here. We still have the room for 7.5 minutes, so if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to chat stuff up, or if you guys want to go experience the fabulous world we've got out there, I won't hold you here. I won't make you stay. Thanks, guys.